Yesterday was the main impetus for the idea that I had. As I got into my car, I was looking at the dashboard, and I realized that on this dashboard they only had certain gauges. And so on the Civic I have, we got RPMs, so I can know how hard the engine's working. We've got speed, so I know how fast I'm going. And then I also had a fuel gauge, so I know if I need to buy gas anytime soon. And as I was driving home, I was thinking, there's a lot more going on in this car than just how many revolutions the engine's going through, or how fast I'm going, or how much gas I have. We've got how much brake fluid I have, the transmission fluid, the washer fluid. We've got all these different computers now in these cars that are measuring all sorts of things, and you've got these new fancy cars where they'll do beam correction if you're taking a turn, or they'll automatically apply the brakes in a special way, and just all these things that are way above my head as far as cars go. But you can understand that these cars are very complex machines, and you have all of these parts that are working constantly together, and all this information shooting back and forth, and all these things talking to each other to make sure that the car is safe, that it runs optimally, and just so you have a great driving experience. Now imagine if these car makers were to decide that, well gosh, we have the washer fluid there, and we can install this little gauge that basically tells you how much washer fluid you have. And then they could add another gauge, for washer fluid. And then you would know if you ever drive, you'd be like, oh, there's how much my washer fluid is. Or they could add another one to let you know about, let's say, the status of your anti-lock brakes. So they could put another gauge here. They could do another one with your cruise control. Okay, they could say, well, your cruise control is engaged or not engaged, and they can put this dial there. They could talk about, oh, I got a great one. You could know about seat belts. You got this thing saying, is everyone clicked in, right? So they could put maybe this little thing here that's telling you about each seat belt. And as you can see that this is just very simplistic, but you can see how quickly this dashboard would suddenly start to become less and less meaningful, because you're constantly presented with information that you don't need to know at the time. Okay, and that's the key. You're constantly being presented with this information, and you have no need for it because you're not making a decision about it. Okay? There's a whole industry out there for executive dashboards, right? Where these executives have a dashboard for their department, their division, their, whatever they're over, and they want to pick just the key metrics that they care about. And they only have, these dashboards only will show those key metrics. If you have a dashboard that shows everything, it loses its value, because the executive wants only information that will help them make decisions that they're making right then. They don't need to know about the washer fluid if they're just driving down to the grocery store. Okay? That's what happens a lot of times, is when we have the information, and in this information age where everything's so accessible, we always want to have it just at our fingertips constantly. And what that does is serve as a distraction more than anything else. Okay, so let me give you the layout of YNAB really quick. We have, in a very simplistic way, we have tabs for accounts, and then you've got your budget, and you have your reports, and down here there's this collapsible help section if you need it. And then on this side it changes obviously with what you're doing on the left side. You can see how easily you could start to give yourself information that you don't need to know about 99% of the time that you're working with YNAB. So when you're working with it, you probably want to see your budget, and we have categories if you've overspent that pop out in red, so you can see where you're overspending. you can look at that category line, you can see what your balances are. But then on this left side, you've got all these accounts that are listed here. And what can happen really easily is people will start to say, I want to see my 401k balance, or I want to see my mortgage balance, I want to see my emergency fund balance, or the balance on my 6 debts that I'm paying down. And while people will often say, well, the reason I want to see this is because it's motivating to me. It lets me see that, oh, it's going down. And that's true. It is motivating to see those balances go down. But when you're looking at your app every day, unless you're making payments on that debt to pay it down every day, you're not seeing the balance go down. You're seeing it stay and stay and stay and stay, stay and stay. And then when you make that payment once a month or twice a month, it goes down. So you get that little psychological boost and you say, all right, I'm working on my debt's going down. And then the next time you fire up the app, you see that the balance is where it was, and then it's where it was again. Next time you fire it up, there it is again. Same number, over and over and over. Same thing can happen with retirement. You put it in maybe twice a week or twice a month, and then you'll watch that balance climb, and you'll see your net worth climb, and then you'll see your net worth just kind of stay and stay over and over and over again. Every time you fire up the app, that's what you're presented with, is all this information on the left side that basically stays the same. And that's what I want to get away from. I want you to be able to have information presented to you that actually helps you make decisions. And as we know from prior Whiteboard Wednesday, where I talked about that whole budget threshold and how we were so focused on the accounts and what your account balances are, but how that's pretty meaningless. I don't think I've actually shot that Whiteboard Wednesday yet. I think it's coming up, but I actually shot it, haven't put it up yet. But these account balances are fairly meaningless. What we want is those category balances in the budget. That's the day-to-day information. That's where you fire up the budget and your groceries balance did change because you have 10 transactions perhaps a month in there, or your transportation, your category for fuel changes, and you need to know about that because you're making a decision in the moment. But you're not making a decision about your 401k and how much you want to invest. You do that anyway, or how much you're going to be putting toward debt. You make that decision on the budget side when you allocate those funds, and then you pay them. You don't need to see those constantly. And the point is that you really want to see when information is changing, and you don't want to always be bombarded with information where it just stays the same 95% of the time. It clutters up your workspace, and it leads to just distraction. There's no real value for having that all in there. So going back to the simplicity whiteboard that we talked about before, where I was talking about saving time by not having to constantly monitor and record transfers and do all these things in and out, what I'm talking about now is just with the information that you're presented, how can you simplify and just cut back and just kind of say, what do I need to know every time I fire up my budget? My 401k balance? No. My mortgage balance? No. How much I have left to spend on entertainment? Probably. And that's the point. Don't clutter up this dashboard that you have in the software. Don't clutter it up with information that you don't need. Once a month, do some kind of a reconciliation, look at your accounts or whatever, and be happy and say, oh yeah, look at all this progress I've made. But on a day-to-day basis, you just don't get a lot of benefit for all the work that you're putting into it. Thanks. And I'm trying to practice asking people to plug it. So if you have any friends that you think would benefit from YNAB, please tell them. And a special shout out to the My Total Money Makeover Forum for plugging the Whiteboard Wednesday on there. Thanks for that. I'm not sure who it was because it's all anonymous for me. I just happened to catch that thread. So thanks for plugging it there. And if you want to share this with your friends, there's some buttons down below. Just click on one of those buttons and share it with your friends, Facebook, whatever. Appreciate it very much. YNAB's growing, and it's absolutely because of everyone talking about it. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.